Uganda Swimming Federation. I talked about Mr. Mwase as well as Marshall today. Yes, a lot regarding the sport of swimming. But first things first, let me request them to say hello to our dear viewers and listeners. Marshall, how are you? Requesting you to say hello to our dear viewers and listeners.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, our dear viewers, and yes, it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thanks for spending time and joining us, President.
Why did you start? Why did you start with Marshall, not me? Just wondering.
President, pleasure.
No. So it's a joke. Good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here at FUFA TV. I should have been here last Wednesday, as a matter of fact, but I'm nonetheless happy to be here and have a great conversation on swimming, a sport very dear to our hearts.
Yeah. Those of you who did, if you did literature, there's a very good writer in the name of William Shakespeare. Those who have really read a lot about him, is where he says, if someone is really smart, he says, you're dressed to kill. So, President, you're dressed to kill.
Thank you.
Okay, first things first. Game of, maybe you can, in a nutshell, you give us your sporting history as a person before you get into the swimming itself as a sport.
I think we should start with Marshall, since now that is the tradition. Or it is me who should give this one.
Yeah.
Well, once again, it's a pleasure to be here. It's my maiden appearance. I consider myself, first of all, I wear many hats, not just in sports alone, but also my line of work. My line of work, I'm a lawyer, and a few years down the road, I went into sports law as a discipline for specific reasons. We have learned that there's a great need here at home to help our industry, to help the several disciplines, and sports law the world over is taking shape. It has become a dedicated area of practice. So it's one of those things that some of us have deliberately taken interest in, so we can educate ourselves and be able to advise and support the growth of sports on a professional angle. So I'm a lawyer by training. Having said that I'm a lawyer, my practice is a legal mark advocate, so I'm a partner. I have had a long stint in government for many years until 2 years ago when I joined Legal Mark Advocates as a partner. And one of the things, of course, as I indicated, is to ensure that we develop and augment our practice by bringing on board this specialized area of sports law. As you rightly indicated, I serve on the executive of the Uganda Swimming Federation since 2020 as president, but I'd been in the federation a lot earlier, serving in other capacities until 2020. My successor was Dr. Donald Rukare, who was president, and I think I recall it was 14th February, I think, when he was appointed as chairman of the National Council of Sports. So he had to, quote unquote, abdicate or stand down. And so it has, from that time on, I took on the role of president, formally elected into office in 2021. And so our 4-year term really should be expiring at the end of this year. But I also serve as the vice president at the Uganda Olympic Committee, where I again have been since 2021 when we were elected. I'd been in the Olympic Committee before as well in other capacities. But like I said, many hats. I have served in different roles and capacities on World Aquatics. It used to be called FINA, but World Aquatics now it is known is our international federation that guides and regulates swimming. I'm also currently serving in a role that is very interesting as chairman of the normalization committee of netball in Uganda. Some people have been joking, joking, I don't know which one, calling me double president. But of course it's a temporary appointment. like I said, we're here to help, avail our time, our expertise to help the body of sport. And netball, again, is one area where we have been called upon to provide that support. And I'm working with a team of other sports administrators to help bring normalcy. And if you want to get into netball, we are ready. But I know that tonight is for swimming.
For swimming.
Other roles, quickly, it's a long CV and I don't want to bore our listeners. I'm also the chef de mission, or CDM, for our team going to the Paris 2024 Olympics. Next week, we'll be counting 50 days. We're about 56, 57 days today. And it's again another long topic. I'm happy to come back here if you want to get into Olympics. There are several things, like I said, many hats. But I mostly consider myself a volunteer, somebody who is sold out for anything sports. And so that, I think, explains my track record and why I've been available to serve in these many hats. Yeah.
Okay, huge CV, worth emulating, by the way, for our dear listeners and viewers out there. Okay, President, let's, you talked about the sports, being a lawyer, and really suits well into the national, you must have had an input regarding the enactment of the National Sports Act at the federation level.
Yes.
And how have you seen federations, because they were given up to September, but by March, I think the minister had to come out with statutory instruments, which the statutory instrument is not yet out. So having rules and regulations, how the act will finally be rolled out. But how have you seen the federations regarding how are they trying to pick up so that we can have the sport move from one level to the other? Because the one that we had was one of 1964. Then you have a recent one which has 50 sporting disciplines at its commencement. Right.
Well, it was an interesting process, and for those of us who have been around for a while, we were involved. As stakeholders, of course, we were consulted. This process started a long time ago, and I've seen a program by President Honorable Engineer Moses Magogo, where he has articulated where this law came from. Of course, we know that he was a co-sponsor he was a sponsor of the private members bill before they were merged. So we were involved doing many things to help the government, first of all, shape policy. One of the challenges that the government had was the fact that we did not have a sports policy for many years. And I think many of our viewers might be aware, we have what's called the National Sports Forum. It's a forum that brings together all federations. So we would use that forum to air our views, to prepare missives that would guide the minister and the policy people, the policy guys in government. So in several meetings, we provided guidance, we provided our views on what needed to be done, especially to develop policy. So government, the first thing that government should have done and what they started on was to have a new policy in place. That policy was prepared, but I think the events that followed, as I'm sure you're all aware, is that we had many bills now. Pressure started building, and so it sort of toppled the policy. But the normal practice for us to have policy first, you decide or determine the direction and how to execute, then from policy the bill comes. But unusually, the law was expedited, and then policy sort of was followed after, which is a bit unusual, but that's where we are. But all in all, I think I can say that we are on a good trajectory as Uganda. We have not had a new law, like you rightly indicated, since 1964, when this one has been in place. Efforts to change obviously there were many hurdles, but finally, 2023, the new law was passed. And like you indicated, many federations, I think, have expressed challenges. And where I sit at the Olympic Committee level, we have sight of some of the issues that some of our counterpart federations are experiencing. And the main one, which is in the law, is going to be complying with the requirement to be in not less than 50%. The new law indicates that if you are an association you should be in at least 50% coverage of all the districts in Uganda. We have, I don't know if you know the number of districts we have in Uganda right now.
46.
No, there are more.
More than 46? That's the last time
I think there are 170.
Sure.
So you need to calculate 50% of
the
those.
170.
And you know that the new law requires that the people who vote in our assemblies must come from those districts.
50% of the...
50%. That's just to be called an association. To be called a federation, you need to be 75%. So it is a good start, and like lawyers say, you need to allow the law to be tested sometimes. We are waiting for the law to be tested, but that's one cumbersome thing, and I think I can count 1 or 2 federations. But the other challenge also is that we are required to have in place structures, we're required to have secretariats, we're required to operate in a way that is very close to what FUFA is doing, which is professional. Most of us federations are either amateur or semi-professional. So the law is good in a sense that it enables us to aspire to operate in a way that will engender the development of sport, that and through governance, through having structures in place, but also ensuring that that it's not business as usual. But like you rightly indicated, one of the main challenges is the fact that the government has not been able to come up with the statutory instrument that operationalizes the law. There's a provision in the law, first of all, that recognizes all the existing federations at the time of enactment of the law. But also another provision indicates that we have 1 year within which to comply from the time the law was passed. This law was passed in August 2023. It would follow or mean that between August 2023 and 2024 August, we have all sort of
aligned.
Yes, acclimatized or adjusted, but without the statutory instrument that shows you, first of all, how we should apply for registration, details about how to conduct, this and the other. The statutory instrument really is where the details should be. So my suspicion is that the government may have to, I think, grant more time because we haven't seen sight of where the statutory instrument is. And as a key stakeholder, I think that's a process that we are willing to support the government to ensure that that side of things is progressed. But I think all in all, the law is a good step forward. There are a few sticky things. I think the law needs to be tested, and then we get to see how it can be improved. One thing we're particularly proud of is that it recognizes the Uganda Olympic Committee. It recognizes the World Anti-Doping Agency and also understands the importance of doping. Very importantly, it talks about us having in place our national anti-doping agency. If you don't have a standalone national anti-doping agency, the World Anti-Doping Agency usually allows your Olympic Committee to play that role. And that's what we've been doing at the National Olympic Committee. So the law currently allows for putting in place a standalone agency that will ensure that all those roles to do with anti-doping, education, dissemination of information, testing, and all those things are done. And if you look at our trajectory, in terms of performance on the world stage, I think it's also catching up with us. If you recall, Kenya has had to have that law in place. They nearly failed to make it to the Rio Olympics because it was a requirement, a prerequisite to have that law in place before they. So as we continue to overhaul our medal collection, we will also climb in a tranche or a group of countries where our anti-doping laws must be robust. So it's good that the government has gone ahead and provided for the establishment of a NADO, which is one of those very positive things in the law. Maybe one last one for the law. The law also recognizes the importance of resolving sports disputes in a specialized fashion. Many countries have specialized dispute resolution chambers. Arbitration chambers, yes. We haven't had that in Uganda for long. There are some areas that need to be cleaned up, but at least it's a start. I think what the law fell short of was to have in place an actual arbitral tribunal or chamber that handles those things. But I think it's a good start, and we want to see how it's going to be tested. Many people, some of us, could be available to arbitrate because of our specialty, and basically to support the body of sport as it continues to professionalize.
Yeah, because I've taken the trouble to read the law. There's where it says all sporting disciplines will nominate a person onto that arbitration chamber. Then, of course, when there's a matter, I think it will be had by a panel of something 10 or something number.
That's true. But also people have got to people have to have the credentials. They need to understand resolving sports disputes. They need to understand some, very technical things so that you are able to arbitrate from a viewpoint, from an informed perspective. That's the term.
Yeah, maybe before we go into delve into swimming, my last one on this before Marshall comes in there is why is it, for the betterment of our understanding and even for the viewers, why is it that it's not good for sporting disputes to be taken into civil courts? What's there? Because you ideally would think that civil courts would really be out there to listen and to adjudicate on any matter.
Well, first of all, there's a term, like I indicated before, sport has become sports law has become a specialized area. And the nature of sports disputes require that they are resolved quickly. And let me paint a picture. Imagine if you have let's say you have got AFCON that is taking place in 3 weeks, and you select a team, and then somebody says, I dispute the selection process, so I want to challenge. I need arbitrators to look into this and render a decision. If you take such a dispute to our usual courts, first of all, they are plagued with many challenges. It's not to bash the courts. I am a member of the Uganda Law Society and an officer of the court, so it's really not to bash the courts. But the general thinking or feeling from the sporting industry is that it's advisable and preferable for these disputes to be referred to people who have a clear sight of how sport conducts its affairs. So if a competition, for instance, is happening in a week, that dispute has got to be resolved immediately. And that's why even at the Olympics and other major competitions, you have got what we call an ad hoc tribunal and arbitrators that are stationed at the competition to resolve those disputes so that they don't spill over. So the timely resolution of those disputes is crucial, but also an understanding of how sports behaves is really something that many people think should be left to people that are very highly specialized and they have a background in sport.
All right, President, thanks for that guidance. And for those who are out there who have not yet read the National Sports Act, high time you really read that document. It's really, really rich in terms of how bettering the sport in the country, and good enough you're interacting with one of those ones who really read it and of course understood it to the latter, so that you can improve our sport as a country. Because in terms of professionalism, in terms of even at the amateur level, because there are certain things, requirements, like you talked about 50%, the 75% coverage. It's hard. Someone's like asking me, you need to have a swimming pool like for swimming in each and every district. Then you have a delegation of people to come at the National Assembly. So
you can imagine what problems we have. For us to have presence in at least 50% of the districts, we need to demonstrate, that it's real. It's not on paper just.